Right, we got some more craziness. Let's check this out.
And we're now told by his campaign he is in a medical facility getting treatment for what just happened. Pamela Brown is with us here in the CNN newsroom. You're getting new information. What are you learning?
That's right. Just that he did confirm one spectator is dead, that the shooter is dead. A second spectator is in serious condition. Importantly, former President Trump is going to be okay. We know from the Trump campaign statement that he is going to be fine. The district attorney confirms that he is going to be okay. He was removed from the scene, as we know, from the U.S. Secret Service. Now, the district attorney did not know if the shooter died through a self-inflicted, wound or not. We also don't know more details about what kind of shooter this was. I think we need to be really careful until we find out more. I asked, did the shooter have a gun? Is that what you're saying? He said, I can't confirm that right now. I can't confirm anything about bullets or anything like that. So I think we need to be really careful till we get the actual confirmation of what kind of shooter this was. But the Butler District Attorney, Richard Goldinger, is confirming that one spectator is dead, a second spectator is in serious condition, and the shooter is dead. I asked him, how did this person, this shooter, that he did not have details about, by the way, get through security and have access to
very good question, Rhonda.
President there? And he said to me, look, that's the $1 million question right now. That is what we're all trying to figure out. And we know the U.S. Secret Service right now is leading this investigation. And that's a big question because, as we've heard, we just heard earlier from Wackrow, Jonathan Wackrow, Wolf, the security is so tight at these campaign events. You have a former president there. Security is as tight as it gets. And how this happened is just a major question.
Not very tight,
got to
I have
learn
to
from
say.
this incident because these campaigns are only just beginning, and the current president of the United States is about to go to a whole bunch of rallies as well. And there's got to be heightened security at all these events. There's a Republican convention.
You're seeing it live with Texas Mickey Jack.
Convention in Chicago a few weeks later.
11 minutes
August.
ago.
Already they had been planning, even before this incident, major security concerns. Various Department of Homeland Security officials, FBI officials, local law enforcement, U.S. military, and others have been engaged in worrying about what potentially could happen at these two conventions. And now, as a result of this, I'm sure security is going to be expanded even more so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you can imagine security was already going to be tight at the Republican National Convention, the Democratic one. Now.
What was this? Where'd they get this guy? The guy who had to try to attempt to do this.
This is historic. What has happened here today, where you have
looking at classifieds there. Can you shoot?
A former president,
this is what I need you to do.
Who is injured. You have a shooter that somehow made his or her way into that space enough to injure the former president. You have a spectator who is now dead, and you have another spectator who is in serious condition. This is historic.
Could have been worse.
This is a huge deal, and this
Unfortunately,
is going to be the top focus for the Secret Service to figure
this
out
is the
what
outcome.
happened. I'm in touch with the Butler County District.
There was a lot of
Attorney,
shots fired there.
He can make it on the show in a little bit, so we look forward to hearing directly from him.
We'd like to speak to him if you can.
I'm wishing that other people are okay.
Video. We'd like to get his thoughts and let our viewers know exactly what he knows. It's interesting that they're calling this a suspected gunman, a shooter. So clearly there were shots fired
I salute
at the former president of the United States. That's why you could see him raising his hand and blood coming out of the side of his face. We're watching all of this unfold.
Crazy.
Pamela, excellent reporting. Thank you very much. Joining us on the phone right now is Kip Tom. He was at the event in Butler, Pennsylvania. And he was actually about 40 feet or so away
on
from
Friday.
The president, Kip,
is it Friday
give us your
19th?
eyewitness account. What can
Saturday.
you tell us?
No. Never mind.
Yes, as you said, I was about 40 foot away to the right of former President Trump, but I saw this gun smoke and I heard the fire immediately, but it was coming from the stands to the left of President Trump, towards the top, because you could see the gun smoke. About that time is when President Trump went down. It seemed like there was maybe 6 or 7 shots, a little bit of a pause, and a person behind me about 15 foot was hit. I'm not so sure he isn't the one that was killed. But then I thought I heard there was a little bit of a pause, and then I thought there was gunshots that came from behind me at the same elevation as across. Now, it could have been just
this is another
across
9/11.
The area where we were all sitting. But the reality is it really seemed like there was possibly a second shooter.
A second shooter, is that what you suspected? Because we haven't gotten any word of that yet.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying, you know, at first I saw the gun smoke coming from across.
Crazy.
I knew right away what to look for, and I saw it over there. And then there was a big cloud of dust that appeared, and then the shots stopped. But then additional gunfire occurred, and I thought it was coming from behind me. And people around me were turning around and looking up and behind us, which had been stage right of President Trump.
Because the additional gunfire earlier, we had been told, probably came from law enforcement, either the Secret Service or local law enforcement who were shooting the suspected gunman in this particular case. And now we're told by the Butler County District Attorney Richard Goldinger that the suspected gunman is dead. Another person at the rally is dead, and a second spectator is described as being in serious condition right now. You must have been so scared out of your mind as all of this was unfolding, Kip. Give us your sense.
Please, sir.
You know, I've been trained a long time ago to stay calm, and I actually continue to stand up and look for where the gunfire was coming from, and of course was watching over one to see how Trump was reacting and make sure that he recovered and they got him off stage. But the whole audience, I don't think no one knew how to react at the time. It was a big surprise. Some people probably thought it was fireworks to start with, but as people exited, you heard all kinds of talk about, was it just fireworks, or was someone shot, or just, you know, they didn't realize the president had been shot. So,
Kip, you were only about 40 feet away from the former president.
I saw a
of the
lady in
United
the
States.
background
To
just
get
drop.
into that rally, did you have to go through metal magnetometers?
yes, everybody went through metal magnetometers that I understood. You know, they probably had a.
Have you not seen the movie Absolute Power?
Running.
So everybody who walked in
Where
and
the
got even
crazed man
relatively
makes
close
the gun
to the
out
former
of, like,
president went through metal
polymer?
detectors. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well,
I'm
we don't know
assuming
how.
that was the goal. You know, I can't verify that everybody went through, but they were set up to screen everybody.
And
Yep.
do you know how far away the suspected shooter was from the president?
What is it? Do you know what
I
he
would've
looked
said
like?
If you would have went off to the side there, you were talking.
Where was he? Can you point him out?
Probably 100 foot away, 120 foot away, maybe.
And you think people that far away went through metal detectors too?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they were sitting in the stages to the right and to the left, and then there was, of course, people in behind President Trump sitting behind him as well.
Yeah, so that's encouraging that at least security was tight. We don't know how this suspected shooter
Epic.
got as close as he apparently did to the former president of the United States and fired shots at the former president and in the process killed somebody who was just there. And then this shooter is now dead as well. We
That's
heard
unfortunate.
the Secret Service agents shouting out, "Shooter down, shooter is down, shooter is down." So we suspected.
Didn't the
that-
same
that
thing
shooter had been
happen
shot
on January
by local law
6th where
enforcement or
somebody
Secret
got shot
Service or the
there too,
FBI
but it was a
or the military,
protester?
all of whom protect a former president of the United States just as they protect a sitting president of the United States. Any other points you want to make, Kip, before I let you go?
Please, Kip.
No, I mean, it was after just a number of the shots came off that you could tell there was a different caliber gun shot. So, you
Oh,
know,
look at this guy.
You know, there
He's
was a lot going
technical.
on there.
All
but I
sounded
was
the same.
saying it was after 5, 6, 7 shots, I heard a different caliber gun being fired. So I assume that's the Secret Service with their guns. They had him identified and was shooting at him.
Yeah, well, Kip, I'm happy you're okay. And a lot of other people.
I guess
are
the real
okay. This could have
question
been,
is,
God forbid, even
was
a
the
whole
person
lot
that got
worse than
hit
it
the
already,
one that
has
got
been
hit by the
reported.
Secret
Kip, Tom,
Service
thank you very
pursuing
much for
the
calling
other
in.
guy
We
who was
appreciate it
pursuing
very
Trump?
much. John Miller
Or
is still with us, our chief law enforcement.
was
and
it that guy
intelligence
who
analyst.
was
You want to give us,
firing
John,
at
your
Trump?
analysis of what we just heard
It
from
would
this
be
eyewitness?
interesting to know the real story of all this.
Sure, and I think what Ambassador Tom is experiencing is what we call the fog of war, which is having been there as the eyewitness and remembering it the way he remembers it. But as we have shown this video a number of times, what you hear is 2, 3 rapid shots before the president goes down. And when I say goes down, his agents are yelling down. He grabs his ear and he puts himself down on the ground.
Get my
and then they go
shoe.
around him. But what you hear immediately after that, you hear multiple shots. And that is law enforcement returning fire against the shooter. Now, the question that keeps coming up, and we can get enlightenment on this from Jonathan Wackrow, is how does a shooter get into a rally or close enough to shoot a presidential candidate? Their magnetometers and they're checking everybody coming in. What we are being told by my law enforcement sources now is that the shooter was field outside the perimeter of this event, this fenced-in event.
They didn't
He
get the
made his
guy.
way
It's literally
to
the
a
same.
low rooftop of a single-story
shots.
building. And when you look at this area, you see that it's a giant field surrounded by these low buildings. They're like one-story buildings, possibly stables. That he made his way to the rooftop, that he fired a couple of shots, and that the counter sniper teams in place, likely for just this purpose, probably returned that fire, because that's where you hear that 6 or 7 shots of a different caliber in rapid
Nope.
succession, and then total quiet. So that, well,
Judging by my
these
reporting,
told by
Tom,
law enforcement
you are lying.
and
La
that
la la
will be the
lying.
beginning of this entire second chapter, which is who is he? Where is he from? What do we learn from the
Oh my God,
background
this happened,
investigation, talking to his
50 minutes
friends,
ago.
his family,
And they're already
digging
asking
into
all
the
these
social
questions
media,
like they
the search
know.
warrant that's going to be being drawn up right now as we speak, to hit his house or whatever house he's staying in, these phones, computers, documents, and so on, because they're going to need to know, is this a lone individual who did this completely on their own? Is this person part of a known group, either one that exists in life or
Was this
exists
person
online?
hired?
Are there others in this group? We are at the very, very early stages. But I think one of the things that Jonathan Wackrow could help us with is, at these events, there's the counter assault team. They're ready to engage anybody that comes forward as a threat, especially an armed threat. But there are also the counter sniper teams. Now, this is a very challenging environment. You've got this field, this wide open field. You have the president at former president at one of his rallies. And there's no high ground around it, except for these low rooftop buildings. And I'm being told by sources that the shooter had climbed up onto one of these single-story rooftops
Well, he probably
and
had to
used
make a
that to
really long
shoot over
shot.
the fence into the event. He wasn't inside the event. So, Wolf, that is how the information is shaping up. Now, I'm going to preface this saying, of course, this information is early. It will evolve and possibly change, but that's the facts that law enforcement is working on right this minute.
Crazy.